Good morning, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat episode number 66. I'm Rick Zanotti, and this is, what is it, July 11th, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Wherever you are, we hope you're having a great day. Good morning, good evening, good whatever you are. And joining me right next to us, actually, we're in the same place almost. Looks like we're in the same place. There is Colleen Sunley. Hi, Colleen. How are you?
Hi, Rick. Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to eLearnChat. Thank you for joining us if you're live, or if you are looking at our recorded session, thank you for taking the time out of your day to check in with us.
Okay, and today we've got somebody some of you probably know pretty well. Colleen, do you want to introduce our
Sure,
guest?
absolutely. Today we have Lou Russell. And Lou, if you aren't familiar with Lou, she's a speaker, author, and consultant at Russell Martin and Associates, or as she likes to refer to herself as Queen at Russell Martin and Associates. And Lou facilitates with the ASCD. She's prominent in the project management, learning, and development field. And she facilitates the Project Management for Learning Professional Certificate at ASCD, as well as being a speaker and author. And of course, I think her biggest achievement is probably being a parent as well. So welcome, Lou.
So far, so good.
Hey, good morning, Lou.
Hi, Rick.
How are you doing today?
I'm awesome, thank you.
Well, that's great. Well, here we are. It's your first appearance on the show.
Yes, it's my first appearance, period, really.
Period,
doing this.
really?
So this is very cool, yeah.
Oh, cool. That's good.
Colleen cornered me at ASCD ICE.
I think I asked you once before, too. And
I remember I said, they said that they bypassed channels in my office where they were told, I don't do video.
And actually, right now, believe it or not, you're not doing video. It looks like your image froze.
Oh, am I back?
No, you're back. You're there. You're just a picture.
Huh. Oh, well, okay, good. Even better. Can't do anything weird then.
You can't do anything wrong.
I think maybe her Skype feed probably froze a little bit.
Well, maybe it'll come back because it's still moving here.
It usually does.
Okay.
It's typical Skype. Yep, it is.
So today I think our topic is going to be roll with project insanity.
You know, it's hard to believe that any project could ever have any insanity whatsoever.
What projects are you on, Rick?
Not enough, I guess. Yeah, I laughed. When I saw the title of today's show, I just went, really? No, that couldn't happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, anybody who's ever run a consulting firm or done a lot of contracting or frankly managed any projects,
Right.
You know that everything that you've planned probably won't work out exactly like you've planned because nobody else is on the same boat sometimes.
Right.
So, yeah,
and then you're surprised.
And then you're surprised. What happened?
Yeah, you're surprised that once again, the whole thing has changed. And that's the part that cracks me up. And I still do it, right? You're surprised. Like, oh, I can't believe this didn't go the way I planned. Well, they never go the way you planned. So, that's why we always say insanity is a project constraint.
That is
It's going to happen.
Hey, Lou, do me a favor. Turn off your video and turn it back on. Let's see if that jogs the Skype to bring it back on.
And how do I do that? Just click on the camera?
There's a little video button.
Yep, I got it.
And just click on. Okay, now it's off. Now let's click it back on.
Reset. It's resetting. It's spinning. There you go. See another. How does that?
It looks like you are now moving. You're back. Hey.
Yay, I'm moving.
Now we have Lou live.
Yeah, live.
Oh no! Don't do anything stupid. Yeah. So Colleen agreed to desensitize me to video. Colleen, I actually had a video made a couple of weeks ago. It was a very long story, but for the website, just like a little kickoff video. It was really scary, and it's fine. So yes, I've been working hard on desensitization.
Did Brittany wrestle you to the ground and chain you?
No, it was like a Groupon. And I thought, there's $150 of therapy right there. I'm going to do it. So, so yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. As long as I don't have to watch it very often.
Nah, and you know what? You get used to it.
Yeah, I think that's
I think
right.
every one of us, when you first go on camera, you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then after a while, it's like, what? Camera who? Where?
Right. Well, it's like the webinar, you forget.
You do. You
Um,
just start
I think
going.
it's yeah, I think it's so cool. I think this whole medium is so cool. That there's people now, and this happened to me at ICE. I know Colleen and I talked about this. I met some people at ICE this year that I only knew through webinars,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like I've known them forever.
And isn't it weird? That's an interesting thing, but it happens to
It
all
is
of us.
really
And you wind up talking to people that it's an icebreaker. You already know who they are. You've met them 100 times on a
yeah,
webinar, and hey, you actually do exist.
yeah. So
Actually,
it's great. So we are actually making community out of the virtual world, which is
it's
fabulous.
Yeah,
true. And
absolutely.
a lot of people ask, how do I do a webinar? I'm really nervous in front of a lot of people. And I said, you're only in front of your monitor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's it. Those 2 to 5 or 400 or whatever number of people you've got, they don't exist other than their names on the side of whatever software you're using. So don't be nervous. You're only in front of your
Right.
monitor, and your monitor doesn't care what you're saying
Or how you
Yeah.
look.
or how you look. Yeah, no,
You
but
can be in your pajamas and the monitor doesn't
Yeah.
care.
yeah,
Yeah.
unless all of a sudden something happens and you have to jump up, and then they go, ooh. As I always advise,
Won't have any of that.
definitely put some clothes on before you do a webinar. It's probably
Yeah.
safer.
Seriously.
You never know when the camera might accidentally, oops, it turned on.
So true.
Yes. Hey, you have a very interesting subject. We should probably get to the subject
Mm-hmm.
and let people know what everybody really kind of goes through at one point or other, which is Project Insanity. Now, here is the title slide of your presentation. I've got it up. And Colleen, you're
This-
going to share the
I
presentation?
can. As soon as you guys are ready, I can do a share screen.
Are you ready, Lou?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's-
So Colleen is going to share the presentation. We had a Skype issue on Lou's side where it would not share. So we're going to do this kind of interestingly. She's going to give, Lou is going to give Colleen verbal prompts to move.
Now, Colleen, do you
Wow.
want to ask me questions and jump around, or how do you want to do this?
Well, it's really interesting. Now Skype wants me to be on premium in order to share screens.
They
Yeah, that's
changed.
what happened
Did
to
they
me.
change this? Oh, welcome to Microsoft. You're kidding. They changed that?
Apparently.
And by the way, that happened, I think, sometime last night because one of my machines automatically updated, and I went, oh, great. Okay, Colleen,
I think.
you did something.
Let's see. Start sharing your
But that's
screen.
okay. It's no big deal. We can just talk. I mean, we
Okay,
can kind of talk
I've
through.
got it up. They have some
Nice.
little funky workaround. So it should be coming
Oh,
up
there
pretty
you go.
soon.
There it is. That's the first slide again.
So
Okay, so the
Lou,
first
I
slide.
have the slide deck that Brittany sent me. So
Sure.
I believe it's the same one you have. So just tell me how you want me to jump around.
Okay. So the first slide, just for kind of an opening moment, is a picture of Einstein's desk, actually.
Oh, interesting.
So I think that's really interesting because it gives me hope. So usually when I start talking about project management, I do a little disclaimer and say, I am not a natural detail person. That is not my strength. I'm a shiny object person, really. And so project management is sort of what I created for myself to stay focused, which is interesting. So more and more people are having to manage projects that they never wanted to be a project manager. It just sort of happened. They don't want to be a professional project manager. They just have to juggle all these things in their life. So very much like Einstein was a creative person, also, of course, very analytical, but I think that gives me hope. So Colleen, if you just want to show the next page, the one with the methodology on it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my approach to project management. It is not, it is completely consistent with the Project Management Institute's PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to ask Colleen. Because she's a certified and certifiable project manager.
Exactly. I think I'm more certifiable.
In fact,
And
people
we're all
ask me
getting there.
in the
Yeah.
intro, what are you talking about initials? Here are Colleen's initials real quickly. So you saw PMP as one of them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got a lot of initials. CPLP. Yeah. So she's going for that whole alphabet, which is cool.
Pretty much,
It's a nice
yeah.
bucket list. Yeah, it is. So in this particular on this slide, this is just the 4 phases that we talk about in project management. And again, this is minimal project management, so it's for people who want to do a great job juggling their workload, but don't want to go like real formal and just want to make it easier. A lot of it's very visual and very quick. So you could kind of, the slides are going to be available, so we'd be happy to send them to you. Colleen would be happy to send them to you. We'll get them all out. But the main thing is that if you look at the 4 phases, define answers the question, why are we spending money on this? Why are we spending money on this? And I think this is the part that most people skip. We get so busy checking off our to-do list that we don't always pause and go, should I be doing this? Do I understand what kind of contribution it's going to make? And my own executive coach always says, is it ringing your cash register? I would say, I'm really busy. He goes, is it ringing your cash register? So the idea being, don't get distracted by stuff, just checking stuff off that doesn't contribute. So I think that's really important. And that's the part that, again, most people skip that in their hurry to get going. They jump right to plan, which is building a schedule, right? Building a project plan. People love schedules. But if you say that out loud, building a schedule, before I even know why I'm doing it, that's a bad order. That's a really bad order of things. So you have to be kind of a little more disciplined on that. We teach people how to do that define phase, kind of create a project charter in 45 minutes or less. It's because it's always a draft. As we talked about earlier, it's insanity. It's going to keep evolving. And Colleen is going to be teaching a class for us in shortly, couple months, in California. It's going to be doing a class, management for professionals. So then the rest, like plan, is how you do it. Manage is what I call adapting. I believe, it's blasphemy, and it hurts some people very deeply, but I believe you cannot control a project. And if you set the goal to control a project, all you get is massive guilt on yourself. And it shuts you down emotionally, and everyone else avoids you.
That's a really good point, because I agree wholeheartedly with you. You really can't control a project.
Now, I'd also like to fess up that I've not stopped trying to control a project.
You can try. I mean, the real problem is, it's like the old saying, you can't control a project because you really can't control people.
Right. And business, the world.
And business and the world and all the different things that could affect, and tech, because, when we all started doing all these beautiful project management guidelines and all the techniques and everything, they didn't account for the fact that Windows gives you a blue screen of death for a whole day, or other things that just cause a lot of project management grief. If you look at most project management training, they don't really look at all the things that can go wrong. The Murphy side of it. They just look at, here's all the steps you have to take.
Well, they do, I would say, on the hardcore side, on a professional project manager's part of the job is risk assessment, right? I mean, that's really a big deal, figuring out what risks, and I think it's important to define risk, because risk is something that might happen. It is something that is going to happen. It's something that might happen. And so people spend a lot of time calculating risk and likelihood and urgency and cost and all that kind of stuff. But secretly in their heart of hearts, somehow I think there's this weird thought that if we write it all down, then it won't happen. When really, if you write it down, the purpose is watch for it. It is going to happen.
Well, I used to joke with people that when you're a project manager, most project managers are somewhat paranoid. And I said, what? Paranoia doesn't mean no one is out to get you.
That's right. Well, paranoia and pessimism are two different things.
That's true.
I think that's important. So I enter every project with a lot of paranoia based on my experience, but I'm not pessimistic. I'm very optimistic that when we get down to it, when we're in that manage phase, that I'm going to be able to be resilient and creative and agile enough to be able to turn corners.
That's
and
right.
If we get too freaked out in terms of emotional intelligence, we lock on, right? And we do the plan instead of doing the project. And it's really a dangerous thing.
And I think that's where a lot of project managers get messed up. They live in their project management too, whether it's project or whatever they're doing. And they spend all their time on that. And as a result, the project isn't getting done. Just the spreadsheets are getting updated, which is sort of an interesting I talk to people all the time, and especially in e-learning or training projects, usually they're not that long. There are exceptions, of course, but you don't even need to do really much of a project management sheet because by the time you're done, it's finished
Right.
in a
You
lot
mean
of
the
Exactly.
Gantt?
cases.
You mean like a Gantt chart,
Like a
Rick?
Gantt chart. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's
and some
interesting
folks get
because
really wrapped up in,
yeah,
the early start, early finish, and all the
They do.
semantics of project
They
management.
do. So you look at your budget, and 50% of your budget was now project management.
yeah. And
Well,
then there's
managing the
25%
project
was
management
Microsoft Project.
software.
Yeah. All right, let's
Yeah.
go back to the presentation.
So
So,
I was going to say, adding to what you guys were just talking about, PMI did a study a couple of years ago, about 5 years ago now, and they asked all their members who are professional project managers their tool of choice. And you'd expect it to be Microsoft Project, which is a fabulously powerful tool,
hmm
excellent tool, but probably too big a hammer for what most people that we teach are doing. And their number one tool, 85%, were using Excel.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So,
And
so
then
yeah, so
that's no
just,
surprise. It's really I mean, it's an easy to manage tool. The only thing I'm always concerned about whenever I use Excel is managing the updates.
yes, yeah.
hmm
And losing the dependencies, because you can also use
Right.
Excel just
Right.
as numbers.
hmm
Yeah, the
hmm
dependencies are kind of lost when you go to
There,
Excel
there
as
is
well.
an interesting tool that is on. It's a web-based one. I think it's called Smartsheet. Which, if you like spreadsheets, I'm not a spreadsheet lover, but if you like spreadsheets, it is basically a project management spreadsheet that keeps track of all your dependencies, has a Gantt chart view. It's actually pretty good if you like that kind of environment.
hmm
I'll have to look at that. That's a
Yeah,
good
it's
tip.
called Smartsheet. We used it on a
Excellent.
couple of projects. It worked okay. I'm the worst person to update a project chart, so um, and since that was technically my responsibility, it never got updated, and somebody else did it. So
Yeah, long after it was over,
long
right?
after it was over. That's right. Just to prove it was done.
Exactly.
All
So
right.
yes,
So
then the final phase is just review, and people always skip this, but it's very important, especially those of you that are sort of in the learning and development field, because we all know that debrief is where learning occurs. So the way to get better as a project manager is take a couple of minutes at the end of a project and think about what you'd do differently.
Lou, it's interesting. Recently, we did kind of a debrief with one of our clients, and I said, "Okay, let's do a postmortem." And they had this a postmortem. Did
Yeah,
somebody die on the
Quincy.
project? It's like no, nobody. No.
everyone
Yeah,
died.
you can call it a takeaway if you want, but postmortem was. I come from the IT background, and we called them
Mhm.
postmortems back
Yeah,
then. But anyway, I thought it was funny the reaction of postmortem.
yeah, that is a bad term, isn't it, when you
Uh,
really say it out
I
loud
guess
like
so.
that?
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
left them with that warm, fuzzy feeling, Rick.
that's right.
Oh, I can't wait to go. Will there be donuts?
Yeah.
Coffee?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
we're back on the presentation.
Okay, so which slide next, Lou?
Well, I thought maybe we could skip into the business objectives, the goddess of business objectives, Colleen,
Sure.
Arrakis.
There we are.
Yeah. So, and kind of my ranting and raving about understanding why you're doing a project, we usually use the acronym Arrakis, which I call the Greek goddess of business, which is a lie. There's no Greek goddess of business, but and the acronym stands for increase revenue, avoid costs, and improve service. I actually got this. I used to teach project management in the dark ages at AT&T. That was my initial career, also in IT, Rick. So we
Mm-hmm.
share that. And so you should never do a project that doesn't increase revenue, avoid cost, or improve service.
hmm
And making yourself pick one of those as the primary reason, or making your customer, if you're managing a project usually for someone else, right, making them pick, well, which one trumps,
hmm
is a pretty interesting conversation, and of course would change the whole plan.
Yeah. Now she flew into the sun right after the guy, right?
So what? I'm sorry, say it again.
She flew into the sun right after Icarus, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody knew who this was, and this goddess. Oh no, that's so and so. I think it's Athena or somebody. I don't know. There was a whole big
Uh-huh.
thing on it one day in a class. But I also now have eliminated that increased service, improved service piece. I've actually taken that out. as kind of part of the exercise in class. Because what happens is if you think about improved service in a company, you have two directions that can go. One is improved service, obviously, to external customers. Or the second would be improved service to inside people. And if you're improving service to external customers, that's just really increased revenue. And if you're improving service to your employees, that's employee retention, which is really avoid cost. So we sort of already, it's really a rack, I guess, is what it comes down to.
You're going to have to rename her somehow.
I don't know that that'll work. It's very political, but we'll just let it be.
Now, Lou, would you say that regardless of what industry you're in, whether it's academia or nonprofit or some type of for-profit organization, that in order to roll out a project, whether it's a learning project or any type of project, that you should start with one of these, with a business case?
Yes.
For one of these?
Colleen, that is such a great question, because a lot of times people that are in not-for-profits, that's distasteful to them to even talk like that. I've done a lot of work with history museums, and they're about preservation. They have a mission. And they have a almost a calling, right? It's a very sacred thing to them. And when you say, no, the reason you're doing this project is to increase revenue, they get all freaked out. But that said, they have to stay open, and in the last couple of years, not-for-profits have been scrambling for the funding to stay open. So the message is more received by them now. They understand it better, just because of the recession, I think.
Well, actually, with the whole economy the way it is, I think everybody's not-for-profit.
Yeah, kind of. Kind of, that's right.
So it's not a safe bet to just say, oh, well, our team needs sensitivity training, let's do it, without ever tying it back to some sort of a need, right?
Yeah, so if you and I were asked to do that class, we'd be scared to death, wouldn't we? Because there's no way that class would be successful. We have no idea how our customer will measure the success. We have no idea what the students will think when they get there. I mean, it's just a complete waste of money, complete lose-lose situation. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Hard deal. That's a hard. In fact, I'm having a conversation with a customer this afternoon like that. It's like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Because throwing training because your people said they wanted training, I don't know. It's probably not going to work.
Right. So. I'm working with a group right now, and they part of the goal when I asked them to state it was to create emotional intelligence training because the team of managers are interested in it. And my response to them was, well, if they're interested in it, can they just Google it? Why do you need to create training about that? What's the business case for it?
Yeah. So is it because they don't want to read a book?
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. And people are so busy right now, right? So they don't have the time to invest. But unless they're even willing to make that time investment, which is, going to cost money to somebody, you get what you pay for, right? It's the same.
Right. So what's the next slide?
How about if we show them the scope diagram?
Awesome.
Because that's kind of a weirdo thing. So this is probably my favorite diagram, and this is a picture of the scope of a project. And we have in our classes, we have people do this on the wall with flip chart paper and Post-its. Everybody brings their own projects to class, so they leave with the project charter done and a good head start on the schedule. But basically, the project is in the middle. You can remember those old cartoons that are "A Miracle Occurs Here," kind of. So the project is in the middle. And anymore, in general, unless it's a really giant global project, we don't have a dedicated project team. We're a project manager, and we have to beg and borrow all the other, what we call stakeholders, all the other people we need on the project. When I started in IT, early in my career, in 1979, actually, every project we worked on one project all together, 6 of us or whatever, which is really a weird thing now. You really don't see that all that often. And if 6 people are working on a project together, they're also working on all different projects. So we all have multiple projects we're on.
Hey,
So it's really important to explain who I need to talk to, who I need to influence. This picture shows that. The stakeholders around the outside.
By the way, Lou, I started right around 78, 79 also in IT.
So you were probably also Jordanized, were you? Ed Jordan's data flow diagrams
I
at some
did
point?
data flow diagrams and then ERDs and, yep.
Yeah, that's probably where we know each other from, Rick.
Maybe. I did a lot of work with Case even back in the early 80s.
Yeah, exactly. So did I.
And Case was computer-aided software engineering. Fun stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, this is actually taken from Ed Jordan's context diagram.
Now, by the way, there is one thing missing here. At the end of a project, there is blame of the innocent and praise for the non-participants.
Well, or another thing we say is bad news early is good news. Let's just get all that out of the way in the beginning. Jump ahead.
Now, I know what's, and through my experience attending your workshop, Lou, and being a practitioner myself, I know there are a lot of people out there who oftentimes confuse projects with operations.
Yeah, it's especially true in our learning and development field, right? Because building a course is a project. Doing a course over and over again is a process. You manage those differently. And what happens in sort of ASTD land and learning and development land is when they get the course built, it's very confusing what that handoff is. If I build a course, if I develop a course, do I own it forever? Or am I putting it into the LMS and someone else is going to maintain it? So it's very important to be explicit about that, where maintenance starts and where development ends. And that's also true, very true, as Rick would know, in IT. Very true. We hardly ever end anything in IT.
That's true.
It just kind of morphs into another project.
Right. We used to be famous at AT&T. Just change the acronym and pretend it's a new project.
Well, it's interesting, Lou. My wife used to work for a company that got acquired, I think, by AT&T, and that was Teradata.
Oh, sure, yeah.
NCR acquired Teradata, and AT&T acquired NCR.
Yeah, it's all crazy, and now it's back to AT&T again, so it's very interesting.
That's true.
Yeah. So, so what do you think, Colleen? Should we show one of the Loupons? When do you want to do those?
It's up on the screen right now.
Yay! Yay! So this is a Loupon, and
it's the summer special.
Just like you're thinking. It's pretty self-explanatory, but we have a simulation that we developed years ago. And it's a rocket game, and what you do is you have to construct this rocket. It doesn't fly. It lays on the table, so you don't have to get freaked out about sort of explosive devices or anything like that.
So it's kind of like a NASA rocket.
Kind of, except it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe theirs are all sitting now, too, as it turns out.
They are.
But so in this particular Loupon, it's now I don't know, the rocket game has been upgraded, and now HRDQ is selling it for us. If you've never been to hrdq.com and you do training, you're missing this whole fun adventure. So you have to go check out all the cool stuff they have. In fact, you were talking about emotional intelligence, and Colleen, I'm using a couple of their simulations. They've got a really cool PowerPoint-driven simulation for EQ right now in Teams. So check all those out for them. But this Groupon will get you that and my newest book, Managing Projects. So if anyone's interested, click away.
Which is a really great book. I've been going through it, Lou. I think you did a fantastic job. I love the book. I think it's a must-have for any learning and development practitioner, whether they are considered a project manager or whether they're working on projects and they just need the tools to help them be more successful.
And the title was Managing Projects?
Yes, it's a very exciting title. There's more to it. There's a whole subtitle bit, but just look for Managing Projects.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and it's on Amazon as well. You can go to Amazon and get it.
Is that available on Kindle too?
I don't know that yet.
I
don't know. That's a very good question. It's only been out a month.
Okay, good.
About a month
congratulations.
and it's a Pfeiffer book. So yeah, so it could very well be, because they're kind of quick with stuff like that.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So this one, the other books I had done previously were primarily project management technique books. And this one has the influencing skills and the EQ and organizational change stuff on the inside. So there's two different contributors also in the book that help me on that part of it, which if you want to show those slides, Colleen, Chip Knighty from Catalyst OC.
There we go. He's up.
That's Chip, and he is a brilliant organizational change person, creating messaging and calling people out on things they don't want to say and all that kind of stuff. Fabulous guy. This is his organizational change model, and I would really recommend that you go to his website. He's got some free readiness assessments and all that. It's a great site. It's just catalystoc.com. And then if you can skip way ahead, Spiral Impact on the almost last page, third from the last, I think, right?
What's that, Lou? I missed that.
Spiral Impact.
Spiral Impact. I have it as page 12. And that's Karen Valencic, and she is a person that has combined her passion for, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Aikido, martial arts. Is that how you say it?
Aikido.
Yeah, and leadership and teams. And so she does a lot of work around helping you get focused. And boy, if we need anything nowadays, it's focus. So her stuff's amazing also. She has a great book called Spiral Impact.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about focus, they're finding that really we're not truly multitaskers. We multitask one task at a time.
Just like the old mainframes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, we
basically we're 80-column card decks that they throw into us, and it comes out eventually.
I agree. I agree. So, Colleen, what would you like to talk about next?
Well, we have a few folks in the chat room, so let me go probe them and see if they have any questions.
Do you want to come back on video, Colleen?
Do I want to go back to video? Yeah, absolutely, whenever. Oh, I forgot. I'm supposed to stop sharing. I'm like, why are you asking me?
She's asking me, why is he asking me that? Who am I and why am I here?
Hint, right? Yeah.
So I should be back pretty soon.
Okay, pretty soon. She's on vacation. She will return shortly.
Oh, and to answer your question, Rick, I did check, and Brittany also chimed in as well that no, there is no Kindle version right now.
Not yet. Okay.
So.
Now, here's a fun fact: the 10 Steps to Successful Project Management book, which is ASCD Press. Great, just the project management techniques, real simple, real good for getting started. And it is available in multiple languages. So it's available, in fact, in Mandarin. It's one of them.
Interesting.
There's nothing weirder than having a book show up in your office in Mandarin that you wrote.
Well,
and
the good thing is that's where project management really belongs. It's backwards at that point.
And what's just so interesting. I mean, I have no idea what it says. The pictures are gone, so I'm lost for good.
By the way, your camera never came back yet, Colleen.
Oh, it hasn't?
No.
Okay, let me...
We have a lovely picture of you, but no camera.
So you might have to reboot, like I had to reboot.
You shouldn't have to. Just turn on your camera icon again, see if that works.
Oh, yeah, it was turned off. So I have a question in the chat room, and the person's asking, do you have any advice for those of us who are juggling a lot of different projects?
Yes, you need project management.
Buy my book.
Yeah, no, that would be horrible. Yeah, so one of the things is if you haven't got your head around each one individually at least a little bit, it's really hard to control any of that. So I think it's really important to take a minute, take 45 minutes or 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever you can, and just sketch out a little project charter for each of them. But on top of that, if you think about the risk of each project, and we don't have a slide for this, but if I can tell you 3 things to think about. The size of the project, 1 through 10, 10 being the biggest ever. And by its size, I mean relative to you in terms of what have you done before. So how big is it? The size of the project, you can measure it by lines of code if you're in IT, or however you just pick one. It doesn't matter. The complexity of the project, we call it structure. 1 through 10. And what that means is how likely are the requirements to change? Okay. And then the third one is technology and processes. How new are those to me? So each one, 10 being the worst in a sense, size, requirements, and technology and processes. And then you average those numbers together. So let's say you get an 8 out of 10. If you do that for every one of those projects, then you're looking at basically an investment portfolio of projects, and you can say the ones that are up highest, obviously, are going to be the ones that I have to force myself and have the discipline to check on them the most often. The lower ones, I need to just get them done and get them off my plate so they're not bothering me anymore. But that also should be driven by the business objectives, right? Of course, and that's part of the project charter. Like, why are you doing them? So make sure all of them are ones you should still really be doing.
And for non-practitioners, and by that I mean the unofficial project managers,
right.
They shouldn't get caught up or too concerned with the formality of project documentation, right? I know there are some folks who think that you need to have a project scope and there should be a work breakdown structure and a Gantt chart and all of that, but it's a project can be formalized by a simple email saying, okay, Lou, you're in charge of this project. I'm going to give you Tom and Rick, and they're going to be your key resources. I mean, that's a simple charter right there.
Right, I agree. I think you should make it work for whatever the risk is and whatever your corporate culture decides. So one of the things that used to happen to us in IT was we never did the project management documentation, the standard project management documentation, until the project was over, because that's when we had time. So we would go back and fill in all these standard documents. So you did it too, huh, Rick?
And that was mostly for the auditors.
So we'd go and then type for 3 days, right, when the thing was over, which was so stupid.
Well, no, part of the funny thing of that is that you did it for the auditors because they had to come back later on. So, okay, look, we did all our paperwork. Life is good.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting because a lot of the projects that we have really don't require a lot of project management. And people get so stuck in creating project management forms and outlines and everything when the project's already over.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it's a place to hide too. If I'm kind of overwhelmed, I at least feel I'm making progress because I have a pile of stuff. You know, so there's some of that addiction to stuff bit too. But I really think that you have to be realistic. And one thing I notice is that people don't push back. To me, project management is effective if it's growing communication, right? Bad news early is good news. So the goal of project management, pure and simple, is to communicate well. And not to hinder communication, which is how it's sometimes used. And that means that if I have an executive telling me to do something that's stupid, I've got to figure out a way to figure out either I don't understand it or they don't understand it or what's going on. Now, there's career suicide there too, so I want to do that in a practical way. But we can't just keep taking all this stuff into our buckets and going, oh, yeah, sure, I'll add that. What? You got to push back.
Mm-hmm.
So and one of the things why. That go ahead, Colleen, sorry.
No, and ask why.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I think is really basic is if I'm out of time, whatever I'm doing, if I'm out of time and I'm out of money, I only have 2 choices. One is I can pretend I'm not, which is what everybody's doing at work right now. I can pretend I'm not completely overworked and tired and not delivering things well. And I can just put my head down and, stay up all night or whatever. And what you lose there is quality. So if I choose to be in denial about time and money or whatever resources, then I can and pretend I'm not. I'm going to deliver bad quality just by default. Not because I want to, just because that's what's going to happen. I'm freaked out and I'm tired.
It's interesting. One of the major type of project managers I've met throughout the years they use the deer in the headlights methodology. And I have met more project managers that do that. Everything's going well until they get called on it. And then you have this kind of deer in the headlights look where, okay, we've just frozen, the EQ has taken over, and they failed on EQ. And it just becomes a real interesting kind of project venue. People kind of put it all under the carpet, and then when somebody lifts the carpet, the eyes open up wide.
Yeah, there's a great white paper, if anybody wants to Google it, on that was out of MIT, John Sturman, and it's a systems thinking research study of IT projects, and it's called the Liars Club. And it basically tracked people that lied about the status of their project and people who told the truth.
Yeah.
And the people that tell the truth, which, this is sort of like a golden book fairy tale, but the people that tell the truth are successful because they get the bad news earlier.
Right.
The whiners win in terms of project success.
Interesting.
So if I'm out of time and I'm out of money, my best bet is to say something and cut the scope and do a smaller piece well.
Right.
And people don't want to have that conversation, and it is the only way to save yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's good.
So where are you going to be? Do you have any webinars or anything coming up, Lou?
We do. We have a webinar coming up, I think, a couple of different things. We're doing a lot of really... I've got a thing going with HRDQ. They're doing a virtual conference, hr.com, excuse me. And then I'm doing something with the Kevin Eikenberry's group, an audio conference. And then the eLearning Guild, I'm doing a kickoff virtual keynote for them in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And we have our own webinars too. So those are all at the website.
Okay.
You can just click on free stuff or webinar and you'll find it. And we have a brand new, you can see this in our newsletter and also at the website, a brand new virtual playground that we are rolling out right now. And I'd love you to check that out, play the games, give me a howdy do, and tell me what you think, because it's an artwork in progress.
Okay.
All right, great. Any other questions in the chat room before we wrap this one up?
No, I don't see any more chat rooms. I think they're just in awe that we have Her Royal Highness with us today.
That's a different kind of queen.
Well, great. Well, Lou, it was a real pleasure having you on today and meeting you. Really enjoyed it. And Colleen, thank you so much. And I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, but Colleen has a new hairstyle today.
Yes.
I haven't, but I'll see it later.
She warned me ahead of time. She goes, I have a new hairstyle, so don't freak out. Okay. She looks like Colleen to me.
Thank you both. I really appreciate the invitation. It's been great talking to you.
Oh, no, it's been really good having you on. And they had told me you were camera shy ahead of time. I'd never believe it.
I know. She's a natural.
You are quite a natural.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm very small, like right here. See, like those old, there's an old comedy routine like that, right? I pinch your head. Kind of a Monty Python thing. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for being in the chat room. And we will see you guys next week on eLearnChat. Have a good one, everyone.